Morning, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a warm welcome to the third international webinar series for the Micah University College. I'm honored to be here today as the chairman for this remarkable event. Our themes for this morning's webinar series are ChatGPT and Education, New Frontiers in Developing Students' 21st Century Skills, the future for secondary and tertiary education in an AI world. The Micah University College has always been at the forefront of education, innovation, and it is evident in our commitment to providing our students with the necessary skills and knowledge to thrive in the 21st century. As we all know, technology is advancing at an unprecedented pace, and it is essential that our educational institutions adapt to these changes and prepare our students for the future. The emergence of ChatGPT, powered by the remarkable GPT 3.5 architecture, has opened our new possibilities in the field of education. ChatGPT is an artificial intelligence language model designed to assist and engage with students, enabling them to explore and learn exciting new ways. It has the potential to enhance personalized learning, encourage critical thinking, and foster creativity among our students. Throughout this webinar, we will delve into various ways ChatGPT and AI can revolutionize education. We will explore its application and develop students' 21st century skills, including communication, collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, and problem solving. We will hear from two experts this morning in the field who will share their insights, experiences, and best practices as to how we can integrate ChatGPT and AI into the educational setting. I encourage all participants to actively engage in the discussion, ask questions, and share their thoughts. This webinar series provides an opportunity for us to learn from each other, exchange ideas collectively, and explore new frontiers that ChatGPT and artificial intelligence presents in education. Once again, I want to take this opportunity to welcome all participants, and I trust you will embrace the opportunity to shape the future of education and empower our students with skills they need to succeed in the 21st century. Welcome. At this point in time, let me take the opportunity in calling upon our Vice President of Academics, Dr. Albert Benjamin, to greet us. Sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Lawson, Dean of College. I'd like to share my screen. I'll see if I can get my presentation up. 1 second there. Is my screen being seen now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me just set the slideshow mode. Mr. Alvin Lawson, Chair of the Program and Dean of College. Mrs. Melanie Leach, our librarian and organizer of this significant online event. Dr. Chen Wenli, I hope I got that correct. And Dr. Wesley Hughes, our two guest presenters, administrators, principals, teachers, colleagues at the Mike University College, students. Good morning to you all. I believe it was Charles Darwin. In fact, I'm sure that it was Charles Darwin that put this quote together, where he said the most powerful natural species are those that adapt to environmental change without losing their fundamental identity, which gives them a competitive advantage. The Mike University College has survived, and indeed I would say thrived, over the last 187 years. And the reason that we have identified as being responsible for this sustained lifetime are the following 4 elements. 1, remaining true to our character as a Christian but non-denominational institution, our capacity to respond to the changing developmental needs of the Jamaican and Caribbean society, our ability to attract able and ambitious students and to provide them with high-quality education, and finally, the performance of our graduates in society. I share this graphic to indicate for persons who are across the globe what our standing is in relation to our contribution to teacher education. In fact, I should have said on the outset that we are a teacher education institution. And among the things I listed already, we are pretty much the leader in terms of the market share in Jamaica. We service 30% of persons who seek to engage in teaching and be trained in teaching. We train 30% of the persons that enter the teaching profession. Now, you would have observed that I mentioned one of the reasons why we have survived over 187 years is because of our capacity to respond to the changing needs of our societies. And indeed, we are at that another watershed moment where we must take hold of this revolution. Indeed, it is a revolution in terms of the artificial intelligence developments, and to ensure that we change in response to this development by preparing teachers and indeed leading the conversation nationally to help us all to embrace this critical transition at this time in our history. We are an institutionally accredited institution, and as a part of our preparation to be responsive to change. And I just want to point out quickly that accreditation confers several benefits, both to the institution and to students. It validates the institution's standards of quality. It provides a basis for government funding because, as you probably would be aware, governments do not fund persons to pursue programs that are not accredited. It encourages institutional self-improvement, and accredited degrees, it is well known, do better. Persons with accredited degrees do better in the job market It also, of course, helps students and parents to choose acceptable institutions. You tend not to choose those that are not accredited, and I dare say sometimes you use that signal to avoid things like the diploma mills, which are so prevalent these days. And so we have taken on, well prepared in relation to our quality and offerings, we have taken on the conversation here now with our third webinar on ChatGPT, one of the elements in the menu of artificial intelligence offerings. And we believe that we should embrace all that comes, well, lead the discussion in relation to how we deal with all that comes with artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. Among the positives, we believe, are the time saving it can offer teachers and professors, the fact that you can have AI tutors who can assist students. AI can enhance students' health, and this is also in relation to some developments of AI. For example, a student can be tracked around a campus. You may not think that's a positive thing, but in relation to security and issues such as those, it may very well be a benefit to person's health. Also, you think about the fact that AI can extend opportunities for persons who, prior to this, would have had great challenges accessing education simply because of the formats available to them. I'm speaking here about disabled persons. Help teachers to become learning motivators, and AI functionality can give that critical feedback that is so important in the whole learning process and learning cycle. This is an interesting development with AI. You can see the image on the screen here. So students in China, I understand it has been discontinued, but if you look at them closely, you'll see a device on their foreheads. What does that device do? It can monitor and determine whether or not a student is engaged or bored. Interesting. Now, our conversation today is encouraging, in particular, persons in the education field to ask the question and to answer the question over the course of the options that will be presented to you in this conversation. And of course, other activities that the MICA will be planning to further move the conversation along. We'll be having a national conference later on this year. And one of the things that we are proposing is for persons to come to that conference. Well, sorry, not the conference, sorry. During the summer break, we'll be having a STEM conference later this year, but it is during the summer break we're proposing that persons can come and do a workshop in ChatGPT and receive some certification through the Micro University College. But we're asking you, as you go through this particular presentation and this session today, to think of how can ChatGPT help you as a teacher. I also add my welcome to persons on behalf of the academic staff, to all persons who are present here on the webinar this morning. Greetings and welcome.
Let me take this opportunity in thanking Dr. Albert Benjamin for having shared with us. Recognizing that we have our two guest presenters, Dr. Chen-Wen Lee and Dr. Wesley Hughes. You know, I know that Dr. Chen, you're way over in Singapore and it is almost midnight. So we're not going to be pulling things out. We're going to be moving right ahead. So at this time, I want to ask Mrs. Melanie Leach to do the honors in welcoming and introducing our guest speakers and presenters. All over to you, Mrs. Leach.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawson. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Chen-Wen Lee. Associate Professor Chen-Wen Lee is the head of the Learning Sciences and Assessment Academic Group at the National Institute of Education at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. She is a learning scientist specializing in computer-supported collaborative learning, learning analytics, and artificial intelligence for education. She is the co-chair for the NIE's Artificial Intelligence for Education Implementation Committee and steering committee member for Science of Learning in Education Center. Dr. Chen has been invited as a keynote speaker for many international conferences and has won several Best Papers Awards, Distinguished Research Awards by the Asia Pacific Society for Computers in Education. Dr. Wen Li is very involved in educational technology, and she is the editor-in-chief for several journals, including the Journal of Computers in Education and Learning, Research and Practice, and the Journal of Education and Research and Practice in Technology Enhanced Learning. She's also the editorial board member for the International Journal of Computer-Supported Collaborative Learning. Dr. Wen Li is currently the executive committee member for the Asia Pacific Society of Computers in Education and the Global Chinese Society of Computers in Education. Dr. Wesley Hughes. Dr. Hughes is a development economist with over 40 years of experience and knowledge working across the several entities of the Jamaican and Caribbean Public Center. He is currently the international consultant and partner in firm High Star Consulting Limited. He has written and published extensively in various journals and newspapers on a wide range of economic and development-related subjects. In his various roles over the years as Financial Secretary of Jamaica, Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Deputy Governor of the Bank of Jamaica, and the economist at the Jamaica Bauxite Institute, Dr. Hughes has been a major economic advisor to various political administrations on development programs, policies, and projects covering a wide range of issues. Over the years, Dr. Hughes has served and chaired numerous boards in both the public and private sectors. He has taught part-time at the University of the West Indies and is currently an adjunct professor at the University of Technology. For his distinguished and wide-ranging service to Jamaica, he was honored by the government of Jamaica with the rank commander of the Order of Distinction for Public Service in Economic Planning. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you our two guest presenters for today. First, we would have Dr. Wen Li, who will make her presentation, followed by the question and answer segment. So we ask that while she's presenting that you note your questions or type them in the chat in the Q&A section. Thank you very much. Over to you, Dr. Wen Li.
Thank you, Mrs. Leach. So allow me to share my screen now. Okay. Are you able to see my slides?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So a very good morning to all of you. Yeah, so dear Dr. Albert Benjamin, dear Mr. Alvin Lawson, and dear distinguished participant of this webinar, yeah, friends from Jamaica. So thank you so much for your invitation. It's my honor to be here to accept your invitation from Michael University to share with you my views and my research in terms of generative AI in education, including ChatGPT. So I'm Wen Li Chen, yeah, from Singapore. Yeah, so yeah, now it's my 11 p.m. Okay, so yeah, I'm from National Institute of Education of Singapore. So National Institute of Education is the only teacher education institute in Singapore. So it is a very small country. We are located in Southeast Asia. Yeah. So the title of my presentation today is ChatGPT and Education, New Frontiers in Developing Students' 21st Century Skills. Okay, so I believe this is a third seminar series, so which means many of you are very familiar with generative AI, including ChatGPT. Yeah. So since ChatGPT was launched in last year, October last year, So now it has become our daily life tools for our work, for our teaching and the learning. Yeah. So basically, AI is not a new thing, right? So AI has been existing for more than 50 years. But what distinguishes generative AI from the previous AI? Because the generative AI, it can generate new content. It's no longer just a searching on existing information, but they can create new content by utilizing the existing text, audio files, or images. And the most popular generative AI nowadays is ChatGPT, right? The short form for generative pre-trained transformer, because it can generate articles, summaries, essays, or even codes in a few seconds. It can also provide seemingly coherent and well-reasoned responses that mimic human writing. But because ChatGPT is just one type of generative AI, nowadays there are many other types of generative AI. For example, DALL-E, which is developed by the same company, OpenAI, as ChatGPT. So DALL-E can generate image, right? Some other tools like Descript, they can generate the audio. They can do the automated kind of audio editing. And there are other tools like Simplified. They can do some kind of graphic design, automated graphic design, video editor. And nowadays, there are many other AI tools which can generate a lot of new content, new image, new PowerPoint slides, right? New data, yeah. So all this actually brings a lot of opportunities and challenges for education. Okay, so what ChatGPT can do, of course, is to become our daily work. So as a professor, yeah, so we can ask the ChatGPT to help us generate the story. When we run out of idea, they can generate the ideas or concept for us. They can help us do lesson plan. Yeah, they can help us summarize. So in case I'm reading a big chunk of information, the students generate a lot of online postings. So I can import those content in ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to give me a summary, right? Of course, it can respond to our any questions. It can help us explain what's the difference between learning sciences and the science of learning. Yeah, it can also help us do the comparison and contrasting. So not just that, nowadays, we ask ChatGPT to help us to do the literature review. Of course, we have to be very cautious because some of the literature review done by ChatGPT may not be reliable, right? So it can help us do the translation and proofreading. Yeah. Okay, as if we are from computer science, ChatGPT can generate new code, the programming code. It can also debug codes for us. So there are so many usage. So due to the time constraint, I won't demonstrate the real use. So, but we always wondering, so is there any downside of ChatGPT, right? For example, I'm asked ChatGPT to write a bio for me, my own biography, because I know myself the best. As you can see from here, all the text underlined in red, actually they are wrong information generated by ChatGPT, including which university I got my PhD degree. It is all wrong, yeah. So as you can see, yeah, ChatGPT is not always reliable. The information there is not always correct. Then ChatGPT also acknowledges this. And occasionally it may produce helpful instruction or some biased content because the pre-trained data may have some kind of bias. And again, we all know ChatGPT, they have a limited knowledge of the world and events after 2021, right? If we ask ChatGPT who is the winner of FIFA World Cup 2022, ChatGPT will tell us they don't know, okay? So with all this kind of limitations, right? And with a lot of hopes of ChatGPT and a lot of limitation of ChatGPT, there are mixed reactions on ChatGPT for teaching and learning, right? For example, some of the countries, they even ban the ChatGPT at the national level, right? And in some of other countries, in different universities and the schools, some of the schools and universities, they're promoting the use of generative AI, including ChatGPT. But some other universities, they decide to ban the use of ChatGPT. So there are mixed reactions, mixed feelings from the education sector. So now I'd like to share with you what is Singapore's position on this. So first, I'd like to share with you one video from the Education Minister of Singapore, see what he said. And this video actually was a few months ago. Just one ChatGPT was just launched, not 1 or 2 months, under the Education Minister of Singapore, and he makes some kind of announcement in his speech. So now allow me to share with you his speech. Okay. I need to share the sound. Okay, give me a second, please.
As with any technology, ChatGPT and similar generative AI tools present both opportunities and challenges to users. These technologies are in our midst and will become more pervasive over time. Therefore, MOE provides educators in schools and IHLs with guidance and resources to effectively harness it to enhance learning. There are also professional discussion groups amongst our educators to explore its use in the education setting. At the same time, our educators will still teach students to understand fundamental concepts and guide students against developing an over-reliance on technological tools. For example, just like how a calculator supports students' capacity for learning mathematics, but that does not replace the need for our students to first master basic mathematical operations. ChatGPT can be a useful tool for learning only when students have mastered basic concepts and thinking skills. In a more uncertain world, we must also teach our students to embrace and learn to work with tools in the new normal that have a range of outcomes beyond a deterministic outcome like a calculator.
So this is a speech from the Minister of Education of Singapore. So in line with this kind of a direction, a lot of resources has been developed. For example, now I'm sharing with you the screen on the right. Actually, Singapore Minister of Education, they have come out a quick guide to generative AI tools for teachers. So teachers can refer to the guide for this kind of guidelines. Whether they can use ChatGPT, whether they allow students to use ChatGPT, how to do it, what do we mean by a meaningful use of ChatGPT? Yeah. So this is more for schools. Then universities, okay. So this is our university, Nanyang Technological University. This is university position, yeah. This is very clear. So we should equip students with the knowledge and the skills to use this AI technologies productively in an ethical and critical manner, and to help them sharpen their cognitive skills by synthesizing ideas, performing in-depth analysis, and working creatively. Okay, so the idea here is very clear. Yes, we allow students to use ChatGPT, not just allow, sometimes we can encourage them to do it as long as it is an ethical use, responsible use, meaningful use, and critical use. Okay, but having said this, because many people are very concerned, students are using ChatGPT to do their assignment and as a part of their assessment. So we also highlight the second point. Students are expected to continue to practice high standards of academic and professional honesty and integrity. Yeah, so this part is highlighted. Yeah, this is a guideline. We also communicate this guideline with all the professors, the faculty members, and also students. So everybody is on the same page. Yeah. So at the same time, we are doing a lot of educations on generative AI for students. This kind of generative AI really change what we teach and how we teach. It has also changed what students learn and how students learn. So for example, the first thing comes first. In what situation students can use ChatGPT in a meaningful way? So this kind of flow chart actually is from ChatGPT itself. So first of all, as the user, do you think it doesn't matter if the output is true or not? So which means as the user, you need to accept some of the information generated by ChatGPT may not be true, right? May not be reliable. If you understand this, if you do not understand, if you have a very low tolerance of those incorrect information, you don't use it. But if you are very literate in this, you understand its advantage and the limitation. Yes, it is safe to use it, right? Okay. So let me back here. Okay, so then if we decide we want to use it, then it is not sufficient. We need to think, do you think you have expertise to verify which part is right, which part is wrong? If yes, you can do it. If no, maybe unsafe to use ChatGPT. Yeah. Then the next step, are you able and willing to take full responsibility for those missed or inaccuracies? If yes, you can do it. If no, unsafe to use it. Actually, nowadays, our university, we add one more condition. In case sometimes we are using ChatGPT, in the process of the questions and answers, ChatGPT asking us some of the questions, asks us to provide some kind of sensitive information about our privacy information, right? So the privacy is a big issue because ChatGPT is very personalized too. The more personal info we provide, it can provide more personalized information or solution for us. But the downside is they are collecting our information. So if we feel the privacy is important, better do not provide those sensitive information to ChatGPT. Okay, so we are also using this kind of flow chart to teach our students and teach our teachers in what situation it is safe to use ChatGPT, in what situation may not be safe. Okay, so on top of the, it changes what we teach. We also realize actually ChatGPT has a lot of affordances for teaching and learning. It can augment our teaching and learning. It can bring a lot of benefits to us, including both students and the teachers. For example, for students, because ChatGPT is always available, it is always at hand. So the accessibility of the information and the democratized knowledge acquisition become possible, right? Because we always have it, okay? Then ChatGPT can provide instant responses and feedback, which a human teacher is not able to do it. And ChatGPT can also train us how to ask good questions through those conversational interactions. So by the way, actually, we are using ChatGPT in my teacher education class, teach them how to ask good questions for their teachers. Because sometimes our teachers always complain, sometimes I don't know what is happening to our students. They are not able to answer the questions to the level which is to our satisfaction. So we always ask our teachers. Then, one possibility could be students. How about you? Do you think you are asking a good question, or is there any alternative way to ask a question? So we are training the teachers ask 3 questions, 3 same questions in 3 different ways. So using prompts, then ask them to compare and contrast and derive some principles, what is considered as a good questions. Yeah. So this using ChatGPT, we are able to train students for this. And it is also helps with the students' language development. For example, many students are using ChatGPT just to polish their language in their essay. So with ChatGPT, not just for language translation, right? it has also helped them even for English writing. The ChatGPT can help polish the English language. And also, again, ChatGPT make the AI literacy and information literacy very, very important now. Okay, so this is just some of other benefit. There are many other benefits as well. So as for teachers, of course, teacher can use ChatGPT to create those engaging education content. So for example, I use the ChatGPT, not ChatGPT, right? The other image generator to create a poster for my lecture. Yeah. So, and we can also ask ChatGPT to ask us, draft some kind of lesson plan or even draft a course syllabus. Yeah. So anyway, it's never perfect, but I think it is good to have some kind of ideas. Yeah. Sorry, I see somebody raised a hand. Do you want to ask some questions here?
Dr. Wenli, what we had indicated is that you could make your presentation and then we take the questions immediately after.
Sure. Yeah, thank you. So I will just thank you for the explanation. So I will continue. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay. So ChatGPT can also help us generate test or quiz questions for the students, right? So I was teaching PhD methodology, research methodology courses. I asked ChatGPT, give me 3 questions, open-ended questions, testing students' knowledge on ethnography. And ChatGPT really do it, even though nothing perfect, but it give me some ideas. ChatGPT can also do auto marking and auto grading. So for example, sometimes I can import some kind of text generated by the students, and ChatGPT can help highlight, oh, there's a few sentences were written very, very well. So ChatGPT are providing some feedback for the students. Yeah. And also ChatGPT can remix the students' work when multiple students are working together. Okay, so as you can see here, so what's the role of ChatGPT and how it transforms our current education landscape? We feel the most important, this kind of a transformation actually is a human-machine partnership. We believe in the future, there is no more starting from the scratch. So which means we are working with AI, human and AI, we are working together, we are synergizing, and we are the partner. So students and the teachers can do the necessary for teaching and learning, and AI can support or enhances the processes. Okay, so when we are talking about the role of technology in teaching and learning, we always like to use this kind of SAMR model, trying to analyze and map against where is the role, what's the role of technology in this teaching and learning, right? So for example, the lowest level is a substitution. Substitution means we use paper and pencil, we can do the same thing. But now we are using technology, which means the value add part is not that high, it's just a substitution. So the second part is augmentation, which means technology acts as a direct substitute with some of the functional improvement. So for example, at ChatGPT, many affordances actually they are augmenting, right? They are augmenting our analysis, they are augmenting our writing, yeah. And the next level, and modification, it allows for significant task redesign. Actually, yes, because of the ChatGPT, we found that those reiteration, summary, or surface level analysis of information actually already undermined by ChatGPT. So in terms of assessment in university setting, the instructor and the professors need to think alternative ways to assess the students. Yeah. So in this way, ChatGPT already go to the level of modification. Yeah. And the next level, highest level, redefinition. Redefinition means technology allows for the creation of new tasks previously inconceivable. Yeah. For example, just now I share with you the example. Using ChatGPT to train our student teachers how to ask good questions. This is only possible with ChatGPT. Without ChatGPT, we may not be able to teach students how to ask questions in this way. So that is already at highest level, R level. Okay, so ChatGPT, as you can see here, they can place roles in various levels. So as educators, we always need to reflect and think. So when we are using ChatGPT for various users, what are the levels and what are we doing? What is the value added part of it? Okay, so ChatGPT has a huge implications to our learning design, right? So as an instructor, we need to think. We need to design meaningful learning tasks or assessment tasks supported by technology rather than designing tasks surrounding technologies, right? So I've been attending some of the workshops, if the workshop is like a university professor, how to deal with the issue that students are using ChatGPT to write the essay, then submit the assignment as a part of the assessment. And one some of the tips is, let's put more contextual information because ChatGPT is not able to handle those very contextualized information. Or some of the tasks, let's ask ChatGPT, let's give some learning task with the information in 2022 or even 2023, because ChatGPT has no such kind of information. So each time I hear this kind of discourses, I can't help but laugh because it's like we're designing tasks surrounding technologies. Should be the other way around. Has been even without ChatGPT. As an educator, we always need to think about the 21st century competency, higher order thinking, right? Actually, it's not just because of ChatGPT we are looking to this. Without AI, we are also looking to this. Now, just because of ChatGPT, the things get speed up, okay? So for example, if we are looking at this kind of Bloom's taxonomy, so we all know we do not want to use ChatGPT for those lower level, cognitive level tasks like remembering and understanding, because ChatGPT can do it very well, right? But we can design some tasks using ChatGPT at the higher level. For example, we train students how to ask good questions. We ask students to do some kind of analysis task. So for example, we ask them to critique some kind of content generated by ChatGPT. For example, we just share with the students, this is a literature review generated by ChatGPT. Can you analyze and let us know the accuracy and the reliability of this piece of AI generated content? So this already at the higher order thinking level analyzing, right? Sometimes we can also ask the students to compare, critique, and reflect about the differences between human-generated content and machine-generated content. For example, at National Institute of Education, my institution, we do have an art education department, right? So we were laughing, we were jokes with our art education colleagues. Are you going to lose your job? Now the DOE, they are able to generate a lot of the poster or artist piece within a second. And our colleagues' responses is actually it can afford an alternative way of teaching in art education. So first, they are asking students to generate some of the art pieces. And they also ask ChatGPT or DOE or other generative AI to generate some art pieces. Then students need to compare, critique, and reflect. What's the differences? What are the similarities? And what they have learned from AI generated content. Okay. And the highest level actually is co-creating with the AI. Yeah, so writing with AI, coding with the AI, and doing art with the AI. Yeah, okay. So now let me zoom into 21st century competencies because that is the core theme of this webinar. Now I'm sharing with you like a Swiss roll, Singapore version Swiss roll, right? This is Singapore's 21st century competencies. We all know in many countries, including some international organizations, they have different versions of 21st century competencies or skills. So this is a Singapore version. This was developed about 10 years ago by Ministry of Education Singapore. So Singapore has identified 3 aspects of core competencies for 21st century learning. The first one, communication, collaboration, and information skills. The second aspect, civic literacy, global awareness, and cross-cultural skills. The third aspect of 21st century competencies is critical and inventive thinking. So as you can see, this is without AI, we're also promoting this three aspects of 21st century competencies. Now, when we are trying to incorporate technology, including generative AI, in our teaching and learning, we always revisit this 21st century competencies. How are we going to address this, right? So next, I'm sharing with you, this is a very new report developed by UNESCO, right? So just in the past months, I think you can scan the QR code to get the report, or you can also go to this URL link to get the full report. And in the report, so the researchers has proposed many different use of ChatGPT for teaching and learning. Then if we are trying to map against this kind of application of ChatGPT with the previous 21st century competencies framework, as you can see, they are in line with each other very well. For example, the first two rows, AI can generate alternative ways of expressing an idea, right? So apparently, this is good for global awareness, cross-cultural skills, right? The second usage, AI acts as opponent to develop an argument. So we can debate with AI, right? We can have some kind of a claim, and we ask the AI and ChatGPT to debate with us. So this will promote critical and inventive thinking. Yeah. So if the third one, AI help groups to research and solve problems together. So apparently this is for communication, collaboration, right? The fourth use, AI acts as a guide to navigate physical and conceptual spaces. This is also for creative and inventive thinking. So, and likewise for other users, AI tutors, I think just now the Vice President also talked about AI tutors, right? So this is all about co-generation between human and AI. So this has bring a new areas in collaborative learning. So previously, collaborative learning is always talking about human and human collaboration, sometimes mediated by technology, but it's always people are working with human, right? But because of this kind of ChatGPT, because it is so intelligent, now the new arena for collaborative learning become human and machine, how we work together and how we can do it, do things better, better than as a human I'm doing it alone, right? So AI can assist the human in the design, and we can play with AI, explore with AI, It can AI can help us reflect our learning. And also AI sometimes can give us tasks and challenges to tackle, So as you can see here, all those kind of usage of a ChatGPT here, in line with those 21st century competency, very, very well. So just to reiterate for simplest version, 21st century competencies, your communication, collaboration, and information skills. Yes, we can develop this kind of skills using ChatGPT by asking students to interacting with ChatGPT. And because ChatGPT can generate a lot of alternative ideas, also it will help us with the civic literacy, global awareness, and cross-cultural skills, because it will bring alternative perspectives to us. And also, we all know nowadays that we don't want to use ChatGPT for lower order thinking, right? And ChatGPT, we always reflect on the content generated by ChatGPT, so it will help with our critical and inventive thinking. So yes, with the era of the AI is coming, ChatGPT will promote all this kind of 21st century skills and competencies. Okay, so we always talk about future ready, right? What do we mean by future ready? We want to look at future learning. We want to design future learning environment. We want to cultivate future ready learners. And it brings us a lot of challenges in terms of what do we mean by information literacy and digital literacy. So because of a generative AI, because of ChatGPT, now we have to incorporate this kind of AI as part of the digital literacy program. So, this is a message generated, right? So sometimes we ask ChatGPT, will AI replace me? Yeah. So the response is AI will not replace you. A person who is using AI will replace you. So yeah, so it is not just for students or not just for teachers, for any citizens, for any people, right? So using ChatGPT, interacting with ChatGPT become a daily life. Okay, so having discussing so many positive things about ChatGPT, we have to be very, very cautious on those challenges and concerns. So first, a challenge. Many people are very interested in ChatGPT, right? Actually, in my university, we also did some survey. The university did some survey. Apparently, almost 3/4 of university students, they have been using ChatGPT for their study, right? In various ways. So in the public, more and more people are using ChatGPT for their work and for their life. However, so we found that the public understanding of AI is very broad, but not very deep. So not many people are really realize that there are a lot of bias, limitations, and inaccuracy of AI, especially for generative AI. So another separate issue is the privacy and the data protection. For example, I have a 12-year boy. Yeah, he was using ChatGPT for his homework. He was quite interested in some kind of issues, and I found that he's reviewing a lot of his personal information to generative AI. So I told them, actually no, I think you need to be careful. The data privacy, data protection part. Okay. And also second issue now is a very heating issue in university, plagiarism, unethical use of AI. In the past semester, our semester just ended, and we do using those AI checking tools, identify a few cases using ChatGPT to write the essay, write their dissertation, right? So this is considered as unethical and the plagiarism. And also many people are very, very concerned. Students over-reliance on this kind of a generative AI. What are we missing, right? Of course, we are gaining certain things, but what are the things are missing? For example, for young learners, if they are working with ChatGPT from very, very young age, if they over-rely on ChatGPT to give them ideas, they may lose the agency to think creatively, right? So they may lose the skills of deep information processing, summarizing, synthesizing, proper research techniques, and also they may feel it is so attractive and appealing using ChatGPT or other generative AI. Will this affect their physical in-person interaction with educators, peers, parents, family members? So what are the issues here? Because sometimes the impact is a longer term. It's not very short term. But others, we have to be very, very careful. Yeah. We hope students are being equipped with those core skills first before they are just rely on ChatGPT to do everything. Okay, so implications to assessment. So just to share with you, my university, what are we doing in terms of assessment? First thing, of course, we need to design alternative assessment tasks to promote higher order thinking and 21st century competencies. And on top of that, we also have a lot of other AI checking tools. For example, in my university, we are using two tools. Turnitin, right? First, it can help us generate a similarity index. Second, it also generates AI index. But even Turnitin, this kind of AI checker, they claim the information may not be always correct. So we found we may not be able to rely on this kind of AI checker index to penalize our students, right? So sometimes we are using second tools, which is called copy leaks, or maybe other tools as well. But having said this, no matter how many tools we're using, we still have no hard evidence to say students you are using ChatGPT unless they acknowledge they are using it. So what we are thinking is actually in the university, we allow them to use, but they need to use it in an ethical way. They need to acknowledge the usage of ChatGPT if they're using. In the methodology section, they need to explain how they use ChatGPT, on which day, what generative AI tools they are using, what prompts are they using, and what kind of texts are generated by AI, and how they work with AI together. So with this, we feel it is still considered as the ethical use of AI. Okay, so now, so what is as a learning scientist? Actually, I don't think we should ban ChatGPT. We need to embracing it. It become a new normal, I believe. Yeah. So it's just like there are 3 waves in terms of AI for learning, right? The first, learning about AI. So we need to understand how AI works, what's the limitation, what are the capability, and we need to realize what are the potential issues of AI. So it's about learning about AI. The second, learning from AI, because the AI, generative AI, ChatGPT has generated so much content and resources for us. So of course, we can learn from those content generated by ChatGPT, and we can also learn from ChatGPT what kind of a logic and the patterns of AI to inform the better learning strategies for humans, right? And on top of that, actually the highest level is a learning with AI, co-generation with AI. Yeah, it is again, we highlight the human-machine collaboration. We believe the new normal and in the future, there are no more write or create from the scratch. Okay, so just to summarize, we want to highlight learners or humans' agency in learning, even though we are working and learning with AI. So we want to highlight those critical skills that humans still need to have in terms of reflection, critiquing, and building upon, right? And we want to promote creative, critical, ethical, and responsive use of AI for teaching and learning. Okay, so this is, I think it's my last slide, just share with you, yeah, at NIE, National Institute for Education, yeah, we are not just to reacting or responding. We believe as a learning scientist, as a researcher or educator in this field, we also need to shaping something. Actually, in my university, we have developed some kind of API backend using ChatGPT, but in our API, we have embedded a lot of prompts which will promote those meaningful pedagogy. And in terms of a teaching program, we have launched a few new courses. So education at the intersection of AI and neuroscience. And we also have a leadership program in terms of leadership in AI for education, introduction to AI to education. And for our pre-service teaching program, we also have ICT for meaningful learning. So we have increased the duration of the component of AI for education. Okay, so this is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. So I'd like to, open the floor for the Q&A. Thank you. So I will stop share now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wenli.
You're most welcome. My pleasure.
I know that there's a hand raised. I think that's Mrs. Beverly Harris. Mrs. Harris, I see some applause going up.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Your presentation was well received.
Yeah. Oh, very, very warm. You are so warm.
I'm sorry, Mr. Lawson, my hand must have touched it accidentally. I do not have a question at this time.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Lady Harris. Let me see. Lady Marge Smith. A comment. Using ChatGPT as a student requires honesty, responsibility, and accountability. What's that?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that's a comment.
That's a comment. Yeah, so students need to be honestly describe and explain how they use ChatGPT in their assignment. And then nowadays, this is a very similar with a journal. So most of the publisher, the academic journal, also the position is very clear. So as a researcher, we can use ChatGPT to do research or writing the papers, as long as in the methodology section, we explain and acknowledge it clearly about how we use ChatGPT.
Okay, yes, there's another question which says, what would account for the shortcoming after 2021 for ChatGPT?
Oh, okay. So yeah, I think this is about the technology. Actually, sometimes we found some of the information that generated by ChatGPT actually already informed some of things happening after 2021. I believe it's just a matter of the time. Now technology developing so fast, I believe it's going to be getting closer with our current era. So I believe just in the near future, ChatGPT can use almost the real-time data to train themselves. It's just a matter of time.
Okay, thank you for that. Another question here. What recommendation would you give to create policy for institution assessment?
That's a good question. My university is doing it now. Yeah. So first, we are going to have a lot of workshop because we need to hear the voices from different faculties, and it is very interesting. There are 3 different views on ChatGPT. Some of the professors saying the nature of that course, they may not want to allow students to use ChatGPT because that course itself is about reasoning and argument, right? They still feel students need to do this course without ChatGPT, okay? But some of other professors are saying can incorporate. Incorporate means for certain things, they allow students to do it. But there was another group of people, like learning scientists like me, we are actively incorporating ChatGPT in various aspects of teaching and learning. So in terms of SAMR model, we are looking at a higher end. So now in terms of policy, I think at the policy level, we need to cater for a diverse need and a diverse views and diverse voices of faculty members. So we are now, first, universities stand is very clear, we allow to use. But students, they can, in the declaration page, we are in the process of designing a declaration page for all the assignment of the students. Then in the declaration page, there could be 3 options. The first option, I declare I'm not using ChatGPT at all in this assignment. The second option, I use ChatGPT, but in this way. The third one, I use ChatGPT a lot, but I'm using it in this purpose. It is a meaningful use. So students can tick 1 out of the 3 because all the 3 actually is in line with the university policy. And in terms of the policy, again, at this moment, we are trying to come up some kind of guidelines. Our universities, we have a short-term plan, mid-term plan, and a longer-term plan. So we may not be able to have a perfect policy in the near future, but we are working on it. So when we are hear the voices from the students, from the faculty members, and also doing some reviews, interacting with other universities, I believe we are going to get better and better in the university policy.
Okay, thank you very much for that. One other question here, Doc. For the mathematics students, what advice do you give to design assignment?
So I'm not sure whether the context of this question is because a previous version of ChatGPT 3.5 was not very good in terms of formula or those kind of models or graphics. Yeah, because in mathematics, there are a lot of graphics. But in the ChatGPT version 4, many of these kind of problems have been solved. So in terms of a design assignment, again, no matter it's a mathematics, science, or even language learning, again, we are aiming for higher order thinking. Ask the students to reflect and co-generate with the AI. So I think this kind of principles is not just a subject to a specific discipline. Actually, it is applies to all the discipline.
Okay, thanks for that. Another question here. How do we bridge the gap with those individuals who are not for the use of AI with its importance now?
Well, very good question. Yeah, it's like those people who are not for the use of AI, they're going to left behind. So, I think first we need to get them. Usually we are looking at the 3 levels. Even for the university professors, right? We do have a group of people who are very against this kind of AI for teaching and learning. So first, awareness. We make all the faculties being aware what is generative AI, what's ChatGPT, what it can do for us, what are the limitations. Second one is the attitude. Attitude means we are getting some of the professors who are make good use of generative AI for their teaching and learning. They are giving talks and sharing with colleagues, sharing their experiences. I think that works very, very well because they are our peer colleagues. Yeah. And the third one is actions. Actions means they are really doing it. We ask them to try. So in the teaching innovation, so I think every year's the teaching innovation award, right, have some kind of indicator. So I think for those who are using ChatGPT in a very innovative way, those people, they deserve a teaching award. So.
Okay, thanks for that. One other question here. This individual is asking, when you use ChatGPT to assist with the writing of lesson plans, do you need to write the reference for it?
This is also a good question. I think depending on the context, sometimes lesson plan is for my internal use. Sometimes lesson plans is to communicate with other people. I believe in terms of communicate with other people, it is a must. We need to write and indicate which part is generated by ChatGPT, which part is generated by us. Yeah. But sometimes actually it's not a formal lesson plan. Sometimes let's say I'm tasked to give a talk. I'm running out of the idea. So I'm asking ChatGPT to give me some kind of idea. But those idea is not concretized in any write-up. So in this kind of a situation, we may not need to have some kind of references. But in terms of a formal publication, formal writing, especially those documents are going to be public, communicated with other people. Yes, it is ethical to acknowledge ChatGPT and also explain to other people how we are using it.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Chen Wen Lee. I'm going to be just pushing a little bit more, 2 more questions. I'm cognizant that it's way in the dead of night for you, but I believe there are 2 other questions that I would like to raise. And this one is, should AI be discouraged in primary and high school to develop critical thinking skills?
Oh, this is good. Should I be discouraged? I think we always highlight critical thinking. ChatGPT is not to replace us from critical thinking. Just actually is on the contrary. Because of ChatGPT, because we need to reflect and checking the accuracy and the reliability and thinking how we are going to generate ideas or co-work with ChatGPT in a more meaningful way. It actually promotes critical thinking. It will make the critical thinking more and more important nowadays. So I don't think generative AI will discourage from the critical thinking. My views as a learning scientist is just the other way around.
Okay, thanks for that response. The very last question. One individual is asking here, what's the difference between ChatGPT?
Sorry, I also, what is that? ChatGPT. To be honest, I'm not aware of this.
Okay, yeah. Well.
Sorry about it. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think a few people asking, how do I acquire ChatGPT? I think you can just Google it, and it is a free tool. It is owned by the company called OpenAI. it is a free tool. You just register with the mobile number and also with the email account, and you can use ChatGPT immediately. Yeah. ChatGPT version 3.5 is free. Yeah.
Well, the number of questions having been raised is an indication that persons were really intrigued by the presentation you made this morning, Dr.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having shared with us so ably and clearly. And
my pleasure. Yeah.
We
and
look
thank you so
forward.
much for the invitation. Yeah, and thank you so much for the engaging session. Many participants asked very, very good questions. I'm very impressed.
We look forward for further collaboration. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
And
you're most welcome. Let's keep in touch. So
Yes.
I'm logging off now. Yeah, because already midnight for me. Thank you. All the best to you. Yeah. So wishing you engaging session. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, at this time, we want to ask Dr. Wesley Hughes to share with us. Sir, all over to you.
Thank you. I'm just trying to upload my share. Okay. Are we seeing that now?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Just getting it right-sized. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to participate in this seminar workshop. I'm very grateful to Michael for inviting me to be part of this great new beginning. Professor Benjamin, Dr. Lawson, Mrs. Leach, and of course, the previous presenter, Dr. Chen, from whom I learned quite a lot. I want to, again, thank you for inviting me. This morning, I will be speaking a little bit differently from what you heard from Singapore, because I thought about the need for us to emphasize context. And the Jamaican context is somewhat different, as you would well imagine, from what it is in Singapore. I'm wondering if you're actually seeing my screen properly, because I'm having some difficulty with the sizing. Okay. Yeah, so I will give a few facts on the Jamaican education system in terms of an assessment to set the context for which we will be introducing in the near term the issue of AI in our education system to a greater extent. So we're going to be looking at adequacy, efficiency, and equity. We'll be also be using these findings to assess the need for reform and where these should come. We will also look at ChatGPT in the education institutions as we have them here, and look at some of the risk, benefits, and opportunities, some of which were outlined earlier. And at the end, I will speak to some recommendations. Why am I doing this? I have become a little bit more involved in education at the micro level. I didn't say micro, I said micro level. At Calabar High School, my alma mater, we're trying to assess what needs to be done to reform and improve the performance of the school. And I'm coming to this from having worked as a planner at a very high level, where we were talking about Vision 2030, about teaching and learning systems that are international, making the school environment global, world-class in terms of the environment. Having attainment, equal and inclusive access on the retention and completion of secondary education and continuation levels, which we know we're having a difficulty and a problem with. And also to decentralize the system to ensure quality leadership, management, and resourcing so that our education system can move forward. That's where I'm coming from, at a very high level, and I'm now down to operational levels. And as I thought about it, I try to reflect on what the education contract is. The society is in a contract to provide students with the funding, the intellectual and moral support to help make them knowledgeable, autonomous individuals capable of living productive and meaningful lives and contributing to society. Students, on the other hand, also have a responsibility. They need to show up, pay attention, participate, and learn. That is a contract. And the question then becomes, are we delivering on this contract, both in terms of the teachers, the administrators, and the government, as well as the students? I looked at this by focusing a little bit on what we did in terms of an assessment of the Jamaican education system. And this was an assessment done in 2021. It's referred to as a public expenditure review. And being a former financial secretary and an economist, we tend to look at these things to high-level macroeconomic perspective. What kind of expenditure we expended, what kind of money we expended, and what we get in return as a society. And this assessment was done by the World Bank and UNICEF. And it reflected a view in terms of assessing equity, efficiency, and adequacy. And we use the Caribbean as our peers, Estonia and Finland as comparators, aspirational comparators, and of course some OECD countries as international comparators. Essentially, the outcome of the review suggests that learning outcome is impeding human capital accumulation in Jamaica. And this is a major conclusion for us, because human capital development is the foundation for growth and development of the society going forward. So this is not a trivial conclusion. When we look at the system, as you well know, as educators, the efficiency question showed that there is a declining achievement for students coming from the early period, from grade 4 all the way through to the end of high school.
Just my apologies, Dr. Hughes.
Yep.
There are some persons who are having a little bit of difficulty viewing the screen. If you could click on the hourglass at the bottom, or if you could click on slideshow where you have the taskbar, the hourglass is right at the bottom. If you click on that, then it should be clearer.
At the bottom.
Yes. Or there's a
Slideshow at the top.
At the top, there's a slideshow. Slideshow, come over a little more.
Yeah.
With the taskbar. So you have home, and right beside animation. Yes, you can click on that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you can just move to the particular slide. Thank you.
Okay. It's clear now. That's what I was a little bit concerned about. We weren't seeing. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Hughes.
Okay. So the question is the efficiency question. We notice there's a decline as children advance in the system. Only 65% of Jamaican children at grade 4 attain mastery in numeracy, but only 47% pass math at the CSEC level. On the other hand, mastery in literacy, 85% at grade 4 level, but only 68% passing English. Further, in terms of measuring efficiency, a child at grade 4, at age 4 in Jamaica, can expect to have about 11.4 years of education by age 18. But he or she will only get the equivalent of about 7.1 years of learning, measured in terms of the World Bank, a learning adjusted year of schooling. So a significant portion of that time has been lost in terms of learning. The World Bank harmonized learning outcome average scores showed Jamaican students performing below their Caribbean peers, with a score of 387 versus 416, respectively. To put it slightly differently, a child born in Jamaica today will be 57% as productive when he or she grows up as it could be if they enjoyed complete health and education. This means that we are losing almost 47% of our human capital, or 50% roughly, of our human productive capacity due to a lower outcome of the education system. This is a very, very serious area for reform. And these outcomes, as we all know, are lower than the Latin American Caribbean region, and it's also lower than middle-income countries. So in terms of efficiency, we are not doing as well as we should. I'm setting this context to come to ChatGPT as a tool. So bear with me for a moment. Adequacy, public expenditure measured in terms of affordability, is considered adequate in terms of how much we spend on education. A lot of you may be surprised to hear this. We know there's a historic deficit in terms of teacher compensation, physical infrastructure, but in terms of given all the needs of the country, what is being spent in Jamaica vis-a-vis the rest of the Caribbean, we are doing reasonably well. In fact, our average spend is higher than the rest of the region. We are spending about 5.2% of GDP on education, and 19% of total government expenditure is going to education. 76% of public education expenditure in 2019 went to compensation. I don't know what the numbers have been subsequently, but I know over many, many years, that proportion has remained pretty fixed. Between 75 and 80% would go to compensation. We know that we are underspending on infrastructure and building in the education system. However, this high level of expenditure is not matched by a comparatively high level of outcomes, as we saw earlier in terms of the performance of the kids. One of the major themes that emerged from the expenditure review show that schools are being called upon to solve social and behavioral problems for which they are inadequately resourced. This is impacting negatively on the outcome of the education system. So in terms of equity, the education expenditure in Jamaica at the primary and early years of education for the bottom quintile is relatively poor. There's a fair amount of resources that would be allocated relative to the other income groups. For the secondary level, it's somewhat neutral, that all the groups seem to do reasonably well in terms of the expenditure and the relative size of the groups. At the tertiary level, however, the top quintile gets a larger proportion of the education spend. And this can be termed as being pro-rich. It favors the richer groups in the country. Overall, the system favors kids that went to the traditional prep and high schools and whose families can afford tertiary education. The system is heavily weighted against rural poor, particularly males. And you could also include some of the inner city males. And you see that playing out at university. I'm not sure what the figure would be like at Michael, but I'm sure at university, the registration is heavily weighted in favor of women. No, there's nothing wrong if women are performing in terms of matriculating. It's not an issue about gender imbalance. It's being wrong. It's just how the system is playing out, and clearly something needs to be done in terms of reform. My highlighting this is not suggest that we should have less women in tertiary education. We just need to bring more men, and it means reforming the system seriously to have greater equity across the genders. Now we come to the main point, and I listened to the presentation earlier, and what it speaks to is a huge gap, a huge divide between a developed society and Jamaica. Jamaica is a middle-income country. When I countenance the fact that ChatGPT was only launched in October of last year, and we see the extent to which Singapore has embraced and moved on because they have all the infrastructure and the policy in place to embrace this. And I reflect on the debate and discussions I have been involved in over the last 6 months in the private sector and in the education sector. I realize that the divergence of views, the lack of clarity, the lack of policy, the lack of embracing this technology between Jamaica and Singapore is huge. And this is something that we have to pay attention to. And I want at this point to commend Michael for taking the subject on, because as Dr. Chen pointed out, if we fail to embrace this technology, we are going to be left behind even further. We are losing grounds in terms of the output and the outcome from the education system. As it is now, we are going to be losing even more ground if we do not embrace this technology and see the extent to which it can help us to leapfrog going forward. And this is why I think it's so important to engage with this technology. It is an open access artificial intelligence tool, and I emphasize the word tool here. It is not something brand new that has just come out of space. When I was at university in the UK, there was a whole section of that university, University of Sussex, which was dedicated to artificial intelligence. And this was from the mid-1980s. That's to tell you how long. And most of the graduate students there were from the subcontinent, Pakistan in particular. And we recognized that they were developing nuclear energy, nuclear weaponry. They didn't say it, but this is clearly what they were doing. And they were designing systems that would facilitate their entry into this new era. Subsequent to that, they developed nuclear weaponry, just like India did. Most of the graduate students from the subcontinent were studying AI. And it struck me that most of the students from the Caribbean and Africa were doing development studies, which was just to generate growth. And you saw the difference in outlook and perspective. I suspect today, most of the students going to universities in the UK would still be focused on development issues. How do we generate growth? How do we improve our systems, our institutions? Not path-breaking or frontier-moving science and technology studies. So this is not a new technology. It's built around algorithms to ensure autonomy and adaptiveness in machine learning. It is a very powerful tool. And I had the chance a couple of weeks ago to listen to Sam, the gentleman who developed this technology, being very, very, very positive about the future of this technology, but also being very, very concerned about its implications, because it has a lot of downside risks. And as you are aware, a number of high-level personnel have written asking for regulations to be put in place before we move forward with this technology, because of the power to do things that are destructive, but also to do things that are disruptive in a positive way. And I am very, very concerned that we are not moving ahead in terms of understanding this technology. And therefore, Michael, you are on the right track. What makes ChatGPT so powerful is its ability to improve performance the more you use it, the more experience it gains, and the more data it generates. Think about that. The more you use it, the more experience it gains, and the more data that it is fed, is the more powerful and more useful it becomes. So it's almost a perpetual growing machine, which can over time become so powerful because it has autonomy and it has the ability to adapt based on the information it's being fed. AI, which is a subfield of computer science, is driving the rapid development of machine learning, deep learning, and of course, data science. So these are areas which I think we have to embrace as a society in a very fulsome way if we're going to leapfrog in our development mode. As was pointed out earlier, ChatGPT is just one of many AI tools out there. A powerful one which I've used is Google's Bard. It has some advantages over ChatGPT, but ChatGPT has become more powerful and more widely used, and it is generating a lot of new products very quickly. So we will stick with this one, but I'll show you a little bit later some of the other tools that are available and which was mentioned earlier. Is due to it in the first 60 days. It was an instant hit with North American colleges. Many teachers started to worry about cheating, plagiarism, and other negative uses. Some wondered about the future of education, as we heard earlier. What is clear is that ChatGPT and all other AI tools will change the way how we teach, how we learn, how we work, and how we interact. The best outcome may not be how to write essays or do homework. For me, in the next 5 years, AI, including ChatGPT, has the potential to completely transform our lives, both positively and negatively. It is not the fittest that will survive. It is the smartest and most adaptable. The potential of ChatGPT, as we heard earlier, is wide-ranging. It has extraordinary powers to draw on the complete reservoir of human knowledge on the internet at the click of the mouse, so to speak. It can connect individuals in the workplace and those with common interests faster and more meaningfully. It can speed up the transformation, design, production, marketing, and consumption of goods and services. It is well positioned to make life more pleasurable, more meaningful, and simpler. But who will benefit? Who will benefit from this new technology are literate people. And I specifically draw attention to the literacy issue earlier, the context in which we are developing this technology. If you're not literate, you cannot enjoy the benefit of this technology. It's also going to benefit people who are curious, people with imagination, creative people, because a lot of content is needed, content providers. ChatGPT will be learning as it goes along, and it has to learn from, hopefully, truthful, creative production of papers and information and data. Because if you feed rubbish to ChatGPT, it will generate rubbish and untruth. And we heard some of that this morning. So creative people, people who can provide content, useful, truthful content, will be the ones needed to make this technology work. It will also be beneficial to entrepreneurial people, people who are willing to be more than just rent seekers. Rent seekers are people who just simply take from nature, pick fruits from trees without planting trees, reaping without sowing. If you're just going to just use the internet and ChatGPT based on what other people have generated, then you may get some benefit, but in the long run, you will not reap the full benefit unless you become creative and entrepreneurial. And it will benefit people who value connectedness. People are willing to give up buying some coffee to pay their internet bill, Wi-Fi connection systems. As simple as that. The digital divide that exists now will result in many being shut out of these benefits. In the educational institutions, as you heard earlier, students and teachers should be encouraged to become AI literate. That's the fundamental starting point. AI literacy is the key to the future. The PTAs should be encouraging parents to become literate as soon as possible in AI. Teachers should be encouraged to become literate in ChatGPT as soon as possible. It is a free software at this point. It's not going to remain free for very long. I think ChatGPT 4, you now have to pay, but up to ChatGPT 3.5, it's free. So if you do it now and learn and start learning, you're making the first step to a great leap forward. It is now mainly driven by American data, and it's biased to English. And using ChatGPT in the education system will give an opportunity, a great opportunity, to discuss biases, the history and the culture, which will be showing up in what's being generated. So rather than fearing the generation of output from ChatGPT, it would be useful to take advantage of the fact that these biases are there, and therefore we can discuss them and look at the history and look at the context in which the data and information has been generated. And so learning can take place both for the student and for the teacher. Personalized learning for students is another important possibility. flowing from ChatGPT. This will require data from and about the individual students, the learning style of the students, the level of development. But frankly, after seeing some video clips coming out of China, where they literally focus on individual students to generate information in real time, being fed to teachers, being fed to their parents, and being fed to startups. It's going to be a very, very long time that we will be able to generate that kind of information and data to go the route of personalized learning for students on a broad scale. The technology is simply not sufficiently developed outside of China and some developed countries, and the infrastructure in place, both in the classroom and elsewhere, is just not yet in place, and people are not trained to utilize this technology as yet. So we're going to be, in a sense, left behind in some of these critical areas. And what will happen is that people with means, money, will be able to access this information in private schools or in very well-off schools to fashion personalized learning experiences for their children. And so the mass of the population will not be able to benefit initially. This is not to suggest that it should not be embraced and be pushed, because only a small set will benefit initially. It means that we have to pay attention to this divide and do something about it. It will assist in the automation of much of the administrative work and lesson planning and grading in the school system. It can be very useful in planning social assistance program around the needs of individual students and teachers, because it requires a lot of data, and we are already generating a lot of data in various forms. Much of it is in books and on paper and in spreadsheets, but it's not been brought to bear in a comprehensive, holistic way that it can be utilized for some of these planning purposes. I saw one example of school security, and we have a particular problem in Jamaica where the kids wear uniforms with chips inserted in the uniform while they're on the school compound. And it sends data and information back to a central location where the security people can track where students are and what they're getting into. And this has been used to reduce violence, bullying, and create a safe environment. Now, all of this would have a lot of privacy consideration and issues. And I'm not sure we have even begun to think about some of these things and before attempting to even utilize this. But these are possibilities that we can explore given the context in which we are operating in Jamaica. This technology can be used to promote virtual learning and create a virtual environment for learning. It can be used to enable universal access by breaking down barriers and ensuring greater equity. For example, I spoke earlier about the rural male youth who is poor in Jamaica. The probability of most youngsters in that situation or that context getting to university is very, very low. And it's not that they don't have the innate intelligence. It's just that the resources are not equitably distributed in terms of teaching resources, infrastructure, whatever, feeding, nurturing, for them to make it through the system. So the system is skewed against them. And this is one way of using the technology, hopefully in the future, to enable youngsters, the ones I'm talking about who are not just a male, but female as well, to be able to break through this barrier. And the technology also has the potential to make learning fun. I've been visiting a number of schools and institutions, not just Calabar, and I don't see an environment of fun in learning. When children are involved, if there's no fun, if it's just regimentation, and learning is not fun, there's no play, there's no game, it's not effective. That's my experience. What are some of the risks? You heard some earlier in the presentation. AI chat boxes, or rather chatbots, can be weaponized as powerful tools for phishing, scamming, and misinformation. We knew that, we know that before AI exploded in the last 6 to 10 months. We saw that on social media, we saw it on Facebook, we saw it on Instagram, etc. They're likely to get more people to act against their own interests as the technology expands. Some will likely be using this technology to undermine trust in institutions and to sow social chaos and discord. Some jobs will be lost, but many, many jobs will be created. I am very confident about that. One job, which is brand new, absolutely brand new, is a prompt expert. How do you prompt? How do you ask the right questions to ChatGPT? Dr. Chen spoke about that earlier. If you became an expert very early and learned to ask the right questions, how to prompt ChatGPT to answer questions, you become an expert, a brand new job, a job area of employment and expertise that was not there 6 months ago. Think about that. So you will lose a couple of jobs, but you're going to be picking up many, many, many new jobs in other areas. AI chat bots rather, I keep saying boxes, can equally create powerful tools for learning and creating value in all areas that you can imagine. The digital divide that currently exists, and which was exposed glaringly due to COVID, that divide, and we need to be aware of it and be prepared for it, and don't get frustrated because some groups are moving ahead and others are not. What we need to do is bring the groups that are not yet connected and bring them forward and use this technology as a basis for doing that. For people to benefit from the power of AI, the first step, as I said earlier, is AI literacy. Having the willingness to explore this new technology. Earlier, we mentioned some of the other tools other than ChatGPT. I listed a few here out of the many. ChatGPT can solve everything, quote unquote. You have Tome, which is very helpful for presentation, Jasper AI, which writes anything, Murph, which is a help with text to speech. You have Descript, which can be used for transcripts, Quiltbot, to rewrite things, and we all know that writing is about rewriting, and Sheet AI, which greatly enhances Excel, which is a very powerful tool. And of course, I couldn't leave that last one out, my wife being a lawyer. Do Not Pay, which is an AI lawyer. In summary, the poor education outcome is undermining the human capital potential of Jamaica. As you said, the World Bank Human Capital Index for Jamaica is only 53, which means that we are losing between 47 and 50% of our human capital potential in the country. ChatGPT has the potential to transform all aspects of how we work, how we play, how we entertain, how we live our lives, and how we pursue happiness. Key areas in education that AI can make a difference include personalized and exclusive learning, the automation of administration. There are significant risks associated with this technology, but on balance, the benefits, in my mind, are greater. Recommendations: seek to become AI literate as soon as possible. Think of AI, ChatGPT, today as to what the computer or the internet was in 1990. If you knew in 1990 what this was all going to be and what would happen, you would have moved a little bit faster. I'm talking about those who were alive and reach a certain age by 1990, not for the majority here who are much younger. But think of AI and ChatGPT and all the other tools in the same way. It's going to take off. It's going to transform the world. And if you can get in early and become literate, you can do it. There are free courses on the internet to do elements of AI 101. I have utilized the services of minalearn.com, which is in conjunction with University of Helsinki. Just go to minalearn.com and you can register immediately for free. It doesn't cost you anything, and you start your experience. And from there, you can then move to use ChatGPT and any other tool available. Thank you very much. I really appreciated the opportunity to have spoken to you this morning.
Dr. Hughes, a fulsome presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And I see the applause going up.
Okay.
At this time, we anticipate questions. Let me just check the Q&A to see.
There is a raised hand from
Okay.
Mrs. Stedman.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Leach. Yes. Lady Elizabeth Stedman. Yes, you may go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we are.
Hi, thank you very much for such an enlightening presentation. I
Indeed.
learned a lot, and I created this with a ChatGPT to say thank you. Yeah, I'm aware of all the benefits of ChatGPT, but I think my question when I raised my hand was for the previous presenter from Singapore. My question was about, she talked about the dangers of using GPT with very small children, like, in primary schools or before, that they can develop a habit of consulting ChatGPT for any question they have or any creative communication, and then being unable finally to produce any of their own. So that was my question. I guess it's too late. But thank you very much for your presentation.
It's Mrs. Steman, it's not too late. I've noted your question. What I will do is reach out to her. She will email her response and I will do same, send that response to you.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay. Are you seeing any questions, Mrs. Leach? I'm not seeing any additional questions.
Not presently at this time.
You know, Dr. Hughes, I hear you say that, you know, it's very important for us to all get conversant with AI, but what recommendations you would give, you know, for us as educators to help persons to use this in a balanced way, especially ChatGPT, because at times, you know, persons can become over-reliant on this. You know, what sort of guidance would you give?
Well, I would start by using it immediately. Encourage students to use it, to sign up, and give them assignment structured in such a way that they would have to use it, but they also would have to indicate what they've used it for and show how they have used it, and use it to start the conversation. If there's just fear and there's reluctance to use it, there will be a tendency to lose it, and you keep falling further and further behind. There's no substitute for actually getting online and doing it. I know there are risks, but for me, the risk of not using it and not embracing it is far greater, far greater than actually using the technology and learning from it and seeing what it can do. It is a tool which, like any other tool, has to be used carefully. A knife in the hand of a robber is dangerous, but a knife in the hand of a surgeon can save a life. So it is about being responsible and being guided, especially for students, about how to use it. But it is also important for the educators, for the teachers and the administrators to embrace it, first and foremost. If they don't, and the students are utilizing it and the teachers are not, then there will be a huge divide and there's reluctance and there's a tension. So the leadership has to come from the administration in the schools. People are using calculators. I remember when I was in school, there was a reluctance to use calculators. Over time, it became part of the norm. I think we should treat it in the same way, but be aware of the downside, the risks, the negatives that flow from it, the plagiarism possibilities, and there are tools, by the way, to help you to understand what is generated by AI and what is not. And kids who generate stuff from AI, which will naturally have errors and have things that are not factual, can be challenged to discuss these, not to condemn them, but to show how you utilize the tool and use this as another aid in the learning process.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hughes. My friend and brother, Mark Smith, you can go ahead now, sir.
Good afternoon to one and all. Oh, it's still morning, Alvin.
Yes,
I'll take the opportunity to commend the Michael College, University College, for hosting this very topical. And I want to also commend Dr. Hughes on his presentation. I think he's definitely thinking the way we need our academics to think, as well as our educators. I'm Mark Snow, of course, principal of Monroe College. And one of the things I think, just picking up on the last person that asked the question, there is this fear about how it will impact the level of engagement in the learning process that many students need to engage in. And so the concern as an administrator, and as many teachers may have, is this notion of intellectual laziness, probably being politically correct or low engagement in the whole learning process, because many students will desire to simply just have ChatGPT generate content. Now, I think some of this can be navigated, can be a place it can navigate through and still get strong learning outcomes by using ChatGPT. Or it can be used as a way to power other systems. So I want to draw attention to the Khan Academy, for instance, and they have been doing a lot of work with ChatGPT and the GTP4, which is out. And the idea is that their software does not permit students to merely ask for the answers. And so if you ask, for instance, what is 2 plus 2, the Khan version of this, or their app, which is built on ChatGPT, will then request that the child not ask that question, and then go further to say, listen, I'm not permitted to give you the answer. What I can do, however, is to help you to construct an understanding of how we achieve the correct answer. It literally has that conversation with them. I think that is a huge part of how we have to see our integration of ChatGPT. As far as I view it, it is out of the box, out of the Pandora box. There's no way we're going to put it back into the box and pretend this did not happen, and we just go ahead with what we usually do. No. And I love the analogy of the calculator. I like to use it when I speak to staff and parents about this. The reality is, when I was growing up, a calculator was thought to be a very disruptive device, and we're not going to know what timetables anymore, and won't be able to work square roots. But guess what? We all moved along. It's on all our phones. It's just a part. I know engineers that some can do it from memory, but others still use their phones or their calculators to do the calculation. It doesn't mean that we have any less efficient or effective engineers. It just means it makes the use of our time more efficient. And I think that is one way we have to start to look at it as a tool that we use. I use it extensively within my own office. Since November, I found that I was able to get through a lot of things that would slow me down, sitting down to formulate a letter, draft it. You go ahead and do it, And so my question to Dr. Hughes is really, how will we be able to get the tools, which is what I'm interested in. And what is your feel of the landscape in terms of developers out there, this burgeoning new field of being able to identify AI-generated content? Because I think there needs to be some new industry. I suspect it will be developed or is being developed right now, but that is what we need as educators, tools to be able to assess and identify where ChatGPT is providing the content wholesale to the student, as opposed to having it as something to support and enhance learning.
Can you repeat the question? I didn't hear very clearly.
Well, my question is about where are we in terms of the landscape of the apps and tools to support identifying AI-generated content?
Oh, okay. You can go online. You can just simply type in Google tools to identify AI, as simple as that. And I think I'm aware of one or two of them. I could look it up and give it to you in the chat. But there are tools available to help you to identify content that is AI generated. There are also tools that are countering that. So it's a cat and mouse game. There are people who want to use AI to do good things. There are those who want to cheat, and there are tools being developed to help you to identify what is generated by AI, and those who want to hide the fact that you have utilized this tool. So Google is a very good source for finding these tools, and there are literally coming on the market on a daily basis. No.
All right, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hughes. I see another hand here, Chantal Gordon.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to all who are present here and to all the organizers. Good morning, Dr. Hughes. So my question really boils down to some of the information that was given here. And you mentioned that educators can simply draft, say, an assessment and say to students that they can use ChatGPT or use AI, but say how they have used it. You also mentioned that there are jobs now that are being generated because of these new AIs, where prompts, people need to ask the AIs the correct questions in order to get the correct answers, right?
Yeah.
You also said that literate people would benefit more from this, because when you said that, it resonated with me, because personally, having used GPT, sorry, I realized that if I don't ask the correct questions, then what I will get is rubbish, as you said. So it boils down to this question. I know that I'll be teaching high school students from grade 7 to 11, right? And a lot of them, yes, they're adaptive, and where technology is concerned, they are excited about technology, and students generally, they find means and ways to explore technology for their benefit. So my question is, in giving an assignment and saying to the student, use ChatGPT, but make sure you outline exactly how you used it. I'm thinking that is, I'm not thinking that it will dull their creativity or dull their means of generating ideas, but I am thinking that this is an avenue now where we as educators could actually learn new things from these students. Because if we give them that open freedom to go and use it as they see fit, but share how they have used it, then I am thinking that we can see we can see something new coming from that, in terms of the kind of prompts that they use to generate particular information, how they were able to create something using the AI. So that's my question. Do you think that that is something that could happen, where we would see these new developments if we allow students to use it in that way with such freedom?
Absolutely. I genuinely believe that transparency, openness, and embracing this technology will be a positive. And it will ask us questions about how we grade students. If you say to a student, generate something using AI, but your grade will be better or higher if you have less errors. And so you have to read it, you have to interrogate what is generated and correct the errors, and show how you have corrected it. And you give a better grade to someone who just simply hands you something with all the errors generated. In this case, the errors generated by ChatGPT will be of great benefit in the learning process. It will cause students to read what is being generated and have an understanding, and would be incentivized to correct, to edit, correct, and come up with something that is sensible, truthful, useful, and answers the question that is being posed. But the most important thing that would come out of all of this is the reading. They will be forced to read, but also in reading and in correcting, they're being forced to write and rewrite. So you're getting the benefit of real interaction for learning, but also language development, language skills development in that process. So that's how I would embrace it. I'm not an educator. I'm just looking at this thing from a logical perspective as to how I learned, how I would utilize it. I'm sure there are other ways that this can be enhanced.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hughes. I don't know if Mr. Smith wishes to make a comment or ask a question.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Lawson. You know, the whole idea of how we integrate it into the teaching and learning process, I think, is at the core of what, as educators, we are obsessed with. You know, how is that we'll be using this new tool as a way? It is quite easy to see how you apply this in the context of a work environment, right? And so I saw an example given of this gentleman who actually had issues with writing English. So he's from a South American country, and in very rudimentary form, he was able to jot down very clumsily, his thoughts, and ask for ChatGPT to generate a letter to his employee for coming late. And it was remarkable what the software was able to do. So, very easily how this can, but when you get into the teaching and learning, with the nuances of teaching, with the assessment component, with the depth of learning, with the level of rigor that you want to put in, I think that is where we have to be a lot more adept at how it is that we engage in this process. It means that our teachers have to fully understand the pros and the cons of using this. And so that's, once again, I commend Micah University on being at the forefront of this locally to ensure that we are au fait of this. In fact, at Monroe College, we have a innovation committee, and they've been tasked with looking at how can we apply this in a teaching and learning context. What we have found is that in many instances, it is being used as a way of driving, or I should say, developing other software. So it's in the back end, ChatGPT will work as the engine to drive other software, like I mentioned, CAT, and several others that provide tutoring support for students, particularly as it relates to slower students. It has a tremendous opportunity that we have there with slower students. So for instance, if you were to ask, how did you, get this, let's say, result in trigonometry, right? A particular result. While the teacher may have gone on the board, a child could then sit down, ChatGPT would walk them through step by step where they have misconceptions. They'd write it out, explain to ChatGPT. It can literally analyze where they are with it and then give them a simplified, you cannot, or show me how to get to this result at a grade 4 level or at a grade 7 level or grade 8 level. And the software can then restructure the response in order to deliver that type of depth of understanding and seek the further clarification. So there's a lot of companies, several companies, similar to Khan Academy, that are using ChatGPT as the engine. Of course, there is a corporate version where you engage with it. It provides the structure, the learning opportunity to teach the software for your specific application. And so that's what we're attempting to do, to try and see how best we can leverage, our experience in pedagogy and experience with teaching teenage boys to enhance the actual teaching mechanisms of the software and to ensure that our students benefit from it. I think that what we fear most, and why my question spoke a lot about the aspect of being able to identify AI generated responses, is because, or content, is because that is where most kids will want to go with it. All right, I can tell you from experience, the boys are more like, so while you had an extensive discussion with them about how this can be used and the opportunities in learning, without some type of handles on it and some type of mechanism to manage how it is they interface with it, you're going to find a lot of them where we're going to simply want to default to give me a response, give me a summary of the Napoleonic Wars. And all of a sudden that's generated and they'll change 2 words because they're very smart, We've had kids do something like that, change a couple of the words, put in some errors in there because they know it's not going to be perfect. They're smart enough to figure out that, I can't put in a perfect paper. So I have to then put in some errors, 1 or 2 errors, Miss may mark me down, but I'll get a 90-odd%. And so we as teachers, pulling on our own experience of our students is going to be critical. As I've said to one member of staff, I said, listen, you should know your kids well enough that you know their basic writing style. But that, I think, is still a very rudimentary way of being assessed, because it's going to become more and more complicated. And so I want to see, and I'm sure it's in the back end, and as Professor Dr. Hughes indicated, there are companies presently working on that. But that is where I think a lot of the energy has to go towards now, being able to build in systems like we have Turnitin for plagiarism. To build systems, there probably needs to be entire type of conference, global conference, to look at among academics, to look at how best we can design programs to sign on to probably software like ChatGPT and others, because we know that Google and others are developing their own AIs, will be able to have this signature, AI signature, that we'll be able to, or software will be able to identify that this was generated, via AI. And so even as educators, we can still use it as a way of building capacity in our students, teaching them this new 21st century skill set, and also creating the opportunity to ensure that efficiency and effectiveness of the teaching and learning process. So at the end of the day, we become better because of this tool and not worse off.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dr. Hughes, any comments before?
No, I fully agree that this is a brand new technology. There are risks associated with it, but there are huge opportunities. And I keep emphasizing two things: the need for literacy, AI literacy specifically, but also utilizing the technology. Start with using it. There's no point in debating the pros and the cons and the difficulties and the problems without using it. Be aware of the downsides, the risks associated with it, but also the opportunities, and encourage others to utilize it. I don't know what Michael's plans would be in terms of enhancing the teaching of AI or ChatGPT literacy on a broader scale. But I would definitely think that there's something there for the society, because I'm afraid, based on what I'm reading, what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing, this is something that's going to be coming at us like a train, a bullet train, and we have to be prepared for it. And if we're not, we're going to be just left by the wayside. And there are opportunities for people, even those who will be displaced from their present jobs. There are opportunities elsewhere provided by this technology that they can find space to realize their potential as human beings. And therefore, within the schools, outside of the schools, there are opportunities that can be explored. But we have to become literate in the area. We have to become creative. But importantly, we have to start utilizing the technology. Disclaimer here, I utilize AI to help me with this presentation. Somebody asked earlier about data for Jamaica and where localized data would be could be found. My view is that data exists. The problem is that the form in which it exists is not readily utilized by some of the software. And we have to find ways and means of manipulating the data, not in a negative way, but putting it in a form that it is readable and usable and can be utilized in the way we want to. There are tons and tons of data. We are collecting huge. I give one example in our health system. We're collecting a lot of data in huge books on diseases. And until we transfer this data to a central location in an electronic form, and then it is utilized and shared, we're never going to reap the benefit of telemedicine, for example, or utilizing the data in a form that can enhance our life. But the data exists, and we have to decide what it is we need that we don't have, and we then set out to collect this data. Data scientists, which is a natural outgrowth, as I said, of the computer science, AI, machine learning, deep learning, data science. This is an area that we have to develop some expertise in Jamaica, greater expertise. We do have it, but we do need greater expertise in data analysis, data analytics, to make sure we can generate data that will enhance AI or ChatGPT, or the other way around. And we can utilize ChatGPT to help us to generate the data, to ask the questions that we need answers to, and then we can go out and generate the data to help us.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Hughes, for your presentation. And, before we even bring the curtains down, and before I say some final things, I want to ask Mrs. Melanie Leach just to share with this group briefly about some experiences that the MICO will be making available shortly. Over to you now, Mrs. Leach.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawson. So one of the things being emphasized by both presenters, and indeed Mr. Smith, when he spoke just now,
yes,
is about the need to be literate. We have to be AI literate. And as a librarian, I do have my place, and librarians do have their place where ChatGPT is concerned. And it is our duty, as well as it is the duties of educators, to ensure that they are AI literate. The MICO recognizes that. I know I heard Dr. Hughes made mention about, the need that MICO probably need to do something. Well, we have recognized that from early out, and as a result, the MICO will be hosting an artificial intelligence literacy workshop. And that is coming up on the 29th of May. Persons here who would have registered, I know you would have given your email address to attend this webinar, and so the information will be shared. And in that, Mr. Smith, I know you will be happy to hear this. So we have had the discussions about the different information, the advantages and the disadvantages about ChatGPT. Well, this particular workshop is the practical aspect, the how-to. How do I integrate this in my classroom? How do I integrate this in the teaching and learning process, the assessments? All of that will be shared with participants. And the webinar will be hosted by Dr. Brent Harris. He is an artificial intelligence expert out of University of Armenia. And so we ensure that we got somebody who we know are ahead of the game, and someone who we know will benefit educators here in Jamaica in terms of their professional development, in advancing the classroom, because we know that's where students are. They are into the technology, and as educators, we ought to be ahead of them. So this particular workshop will equip persons with the requisite skills that they need to maneuver the artificial intelligence game. All right, so you will definitely hear further information about that in your emails. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Melanie Leach. And I just want to encourage persons here to sign up, get registered as soon as that communique comes to you. So at this time, we are preparing to bring the curtains down. But before we do so, I just want to take the opportunity in thanking Dr. Wesley Hughes for the fulsome presentation he gave, and also to Dr. Chen Wen Lee for the presentations. These were very good, they were interesting, and much was given that we all can take away to our benefit. And I know that all present really enjoyed the presentations. So thanks again, and we look forward to having you participate in other activities that the Michael University College will be hosting in the very near future. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Another quick one. For persons who would have requested your certificate of participation, that will be shared with you via email. If you have not yet completed the form to get your certificate, it's in the chat. Please do so that your certificate can be emailed to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's you. Take care, sir.
Bye-bye.